Hi, I'm Shari Low. Thank you so much for tuning in to my first ever Facebook Live. Sorry we're a little bit late, we had technical issues. Had to go and get a teenager to help me. So for the next 20 minutes or so, we'll be talking about writing, about books, about anything you would like to ask me. So if you have any questions, just pop your question on here and I'll do my best to answer it. And thank you to everyone who has been sending in questions over the last few days to my lovely publishers at Boldwood Books. I have a list of all your questions here, and I'll do my best to work through them and to get answering them. So as I say, if you've got any questions, just pop them on here. I'm really hoping I'll be able to see them. And I will answer them as we go. So our first question: what inspired you to write your latest novel, and where did you get the inspiration from? So my latest novel is called My 1 Month Marriage. It follows the story of 4 sisters who had a fairly traumatic event in their teenage years, and that's kind of shaped the people that they are now. They are now adults, they're all in their early 30s, and one of them, the book opens when one of them has discovered that her husband is of 1 month. So she's discovered this, and but then she gets a bombshell because she finds out, while her sisters are all in the room, that one of her sisters may be involved in the infidelity. So yes, it's all a bit of a drama. Okay, now, so where did I get the inspiration from? That came from the title, first of all. The title was something that came to me when I had been watching or listening to a Kenny Chesney song. I'm a crazy country music fan, and I'd been listening to a country music song by Kenny Chesney, who you might remember was married to Renée Zellweger, and the marriage didn't last very long, and I just suddenly the title My 1 Month Marriage just came into my head, and then I had to come up with another way of bringing in. So I had a character in my head, Zoe, who played a small part in a previous book, and a lot of people had connected with her, even although she'd only had a small part. So I decided that I was going to bring Zoe back. Hello to Diane Saxon, who's one of the other Boldwood authors and who's just joined us. So that's where the inspiration came from a country music song. A bit of a fascination about spontaneous acts. The marriage came about quite quickly. I have a bit of a fascination for spontaneous things as well. So thank you for that question. Someone said, are the let me answer that one. I don't have any sisters. Thank goodness I don't have any sisters, because I'm sure they would think that this was inspired by them. It's not. It's probably more inspired just by friends, by family members, aunts, cousins, but a lot of it is also inspired, I suppose, by me. A lot of the characters have, and not always in a good way, a lot of the characters have traits that I probably have. One of them tends to sort of steamroll ahead to things, even when things get tough. She kind of steamrollers ahead, which I tend to do. There's another one who likes to care for people and who's always the one at the end of the phone, which I like to think I do too for my friends. And there's another one who is a complete maternal control freak. She's the kind of one who's got her kids' stuff all scheduled, and who knows exactly where everyone is in her family at every moment in time. And my sons would probably say that one is me. So yes, definitely, and slightly inspired by a lot of my personality traits, not just and not just positive ones. But I tend to take inspiration for all my characters from people that are in my life, have been in my life, or even people who I would like to have in my life. So sometimes I'll put a character in who says things or acts in a certain way that that I feel that I would like to see in my life. My favourite character ever was a character called Josie, who many of you will have seen in some of my books, and I adored Josie, and she was based on my grandmother. And whenever I was really missing my gran, I would go and write a scene with Josie in it, and it would just make me feel a little bit better. So thank you for that question. Next one. Thank you to Grace, who's joined us as well. How long do you spend planning and plotting a novel? So, I hate to admit it, and I'm really sorry to anyone who plans and plots out a novel down to the nth degree, but I don't plan or plot anything. I'm mortified by this. So the book that I'm writing just now is book number 25, and I still haven't got the hang of the whole planning thing. I just make it all up as I go along. When I'm writing, I tend to see it in my head almost like a movie, and so I just really type what I can see in my mind, and it just goes wherever it's going to go. And sometimes things shock me just as much as I hope they shock the readers. I've tried planning it out, tried working out a whole storyline, and then I start to panic about 20 pages in because I realise that I haven't stuck to the plan and that it's all gone a bit wrong. So no, nothing is planned. It's all just a stream of consciousness. I tend to write for long periods at a time, sometimes overnight, sometimes for 10, 12, 14 hours, and I just see where it all takes me. If you've just joined me, Sarah has just joined me. Hi, and thank you. I'm Shari Low for anyone who's just tuning in. And we're talking a little bit about books and about writing. If you've got any questions, just please pop them onto the comment screen here. And I'm also answering the questions that lovely people have sent into my publishers over the last couple of days. Okay, when and how did you decide to be an author? That was one of the other questions that were asked. Okay, so I always wanted to be a writer. I've said many times, I used to read Jackie Collins books when I was a teenager, using the light from my electric blanket so I wouldn't get caught. And it was always really warm. It's a wonder I didn't start any kind of heat stroke from that. So Jackie Collins books I was obsessed with when I was a teenager, and I just always wanted to write, but it wasn't really something that was a rigid plan. I ended up working in nightclubs for years in Shanghai and Hong Kong, and travelled a lot. And it wasn't till I was 30 that I finally was having a moan one day, a bit of an early midlife crisis. And I thought, I was moaning at my husband, and he'll say that's not a rarity. And I said, I just really want to be a writer. And he said, well, it would probably help if you actually wrote something. I really hate it when you write. So I'd had an idea in my head for a book. I spent the next 2 weeks writing the first 10,000 words in between working and sleeping, and sent the first 10,000 words off, and I was just really lucky to get a publishing deal on the first thing that I ever wrote. I then had to go and write the rest of the book, and that was a bit of a panic. So I was 30. I had never done a creative writing course. I hadn't been to university. I just loved telling stories. So I suppose the moral of that is if you want to write, then just write. You don't have to wait for the right time to do it. You just have to sit down, tell the story, and put it out there, and just hope for the best. I've been really, really lucky to have been able to make a career of this. So that's 20 years now I've been writing for. But no, I was 30 and just sat down, did it out of the blue one day. So if that's something that's on your list of things to do, then no time like the present. As soon as you leave here, just sit down, start typing. Okay. How do you create such engaging plot lines? Thank you to whoever sent that one in. I think I like surprises. I think I like to push characters to see how far they'll go. And so I think it probably comes from just whenever, as soon as everything gets stable and as soon as everything looks like it's going one way, I like to just twist it all and see what would happen if there was a big surprise in there. So I think that's probably where that comes from. How do you go about formulating each of the individual personalities? Again, that's just life. I see the characters as real people who are they're real people. They have thoughts, they have feelings, they exist in my head. And for the whole of the time period that I'm writing the book, these people are real in my mind. So I just write down what they're doing, what they're saying. It's almost like living with people for a little while, and I'm just always fascinated by what they're going to do next. So what is the secret to creating the perfect romance? Oh, I don't know. Again, I think it's surprise. It's being able to feel what the characters are feeling and put that down on paper, and to be able to create something where it looks like it isn't going to work out, where characters have to go that little bit extra to make a relationship work, to bring them to the events, have to conspire to bring them together. So I think it's just about wearing your heart on your sleeve and overcoming the challenges. And it also helps if you're a little bit in love with your characters, which I always am. The women in my books, even the ones who they're always flawed. Even the ones who have personality traits that I might not always like, I really care about their storylines, and I care about who they are. And if the male characters, it just always helps if I'm a little bit in love with them as well. Okay, the next question is, how can I create a bond or conflict between sisters or family members in my books? Okay. I think it's about, I try to make storylines as authentic as possible. So it's not really about focusing on the conflict. It's about focusing on the characters' reactions to the conflict. It's about showing what's in their mind. It's about showing what they're thinking as opposed to how they're actually acting. I think that people in all walks of life don't necessarily always say exactly what they think. So it's about showing that dilemma that people have between what they're doing, what they're thinking, what they're saying, and if you can create an internal conflict over an event, then that that ups the tension when you show characters interacting with each other. What's your favourite book and why? So I'm not sure if this one refers to my favourite of my books, or my favourite of someone else's book, so I'll answer both. My favourite of my books is it's probably a book called The Story of Our Life. I wrote that back in 2016, and it was a book that really, really meant a lot to me while I was writing it, and since then too. It kind of changed my career as well. It was a book that had it was a big bestseller in the UK and abroad as well. Thank you to all the readers in Australia, America, Canada, New Zealand, across the world who made that book such a success. And it tells the story of a character who discovers that her husband has health issues that will change their life. Grace just said, loved this book. Thank you, Grace. And it was a really difficult book to write. And I was at an interesting stage in my life because I was deciding whether or not I should move on to something different in my career. I had written about, I don't know, maybe 18 or 19 books at that point. And I decided to write one last book that are perhaps the last book, perhaps not. I just decided to write one book that was going to put in lots of things, encapsulate lots of things that mattered to me, that I felt strongly about, that I could relate to, and that's what I did. And I was just really lucky. The book got published. It did so well. Thank you to everyone who bought that one, and it's just a book that I'll always treasure. Hi to Christine who's tuned in. Thank you. That's a lovely comment, and I'm really glad you enjoy the books. Okay, so my favourite book by another author. That would be Taipan by James Clavell. I know that's a bit random. It's a book that I first read when I was a teenager. I absolutely loved it. And it's one of the very few books that I ever reread, and I reread it every couple of years. And it's set in Hong Kong back in ancient times, and it tells the stories of the first. It tells the stories of early Scots who went over there and over to Hong Kong in the a couple of centuries ago. It's I just love it. It's a big epic action adventure, and so yeah, that's my favourite book. My favourite author. Oh my goodness, I can't answer that. There's so many. James Clavell, obviously, because he wrote my favourite book. And there are so many. I love a lot of the Scottish crime writers. I love Anna Smith, Alex Gray, Val McDermid, Chris Brookmeyer. And then I love like the big epic writers from the 90s. I mentioned earlier Jackie Collins, Shirley Conran, Judith Krantz. I loved all those books. Now I love Dorothy Coomson's thrillers. I read everything and anything. Marion Keyes, I adore her. There are so many. I just love reading. Ever since I was a little kid, I was that little kid who spent their whole life in the library, going back and forward with my 6 books. You were only allowed to take out 6 at a time. And going back and forward 2-3 times a week with my 6 books. And ever since then, I've just read voraciously. I love autobiographies as well. Michelle Obama's Becoming was one of my favourite books of recent years. And so yeah, there are so many, and I know that as soon as I go off here, I'll think, oh, I should have mentioned this one or this one or this one. So apologies to anyone I've missed. But yes, the spectrum is so wide. Okay, what is your favourite part of Scotland and why? Wow, I love that question. Um, I would say Loch Lomond. I've had some of the best times of my life in Loch Lomond. It's just a really special place to me. And it's just beautiful and breathtaking and peaceful. And I think when life gets too much, I jump in the car. It's only about 40 minutes away from where I live. I jump in the car and I go there and I sit at the water for a little while and clear my head. So yes, I would say that was probably my favourite place. Other than that would be just the village that I live in, and because that's where my family are, it's where my friends are, and where my heart is really. So yes, I would say that is probably my favourite part of Scotland. The description of places in your novels is excellent. Any advice? Thank you for whoever sent that question in. Any advice on how I can improve this in my own books? I think, again, it's more about, it's less about describing things and more about describing the feelings that you get when you're there. It's more about showing what grabs your heart, what things you love, and you know, I think you could use the most wonderful adjectives in the world, but they only really mean something when you say how you feel about them. So I would say put as much emotion into when you're describing places as possible, just to try and recreate that emotion in the reader. Okay, which is your favourite book cover of the novels you've written and why? Has to be my new one for my 1 month marriage. The fabulous Caroline Ridding, who's my amazing editor. I'm so grateful to work with her. I've worked with her for many years now. And she worked on that book cover, and I just think it's absolutely beautiful. It's a bit of a new look for me now that I've joined the fabulous Boldwood. We're shaking things up a little bit, and so my 1 month marriage has a bit of a different look, but I just absolutely fell in love with the cover for that one the first time I saw it. I hope you like it too. Let me know if you do. And yes, I think so. Moving forward, I can't wait to see what else Bold would create for my novels that are coming up over the next year or two. Okay, how long does it take you to write a novel? Now, again, this is a maybe a slightly unusual one. It really depends on the circumstances. I said earlier on, I don't plan anything. And sometimes life gets in the way, but I tend to write novels in really short, concentrated periods of time. So the quickest I've ever written one was I wrote a couple of them in less than 2 weeks. I once wrote a book in when I was on holiday. I deliberately booked a holiday with my family, and because I needed to get a book written really quickly, and we went abroad, and I stayed in the hotel room for the whole 13 days, and while my husband and sons were having a fabulous time. It was planned that way. I didn't just bail out on them. I wanted them to be able to have a really good time while I was writing the book. So they had a great time in the sunshine, and I stayed in the room and wrote the book in 13 days. Normally I would take between 5 and 6 weeks to write a book. And I know that sounds like a really short period of time, but when I'm writing, I write everywhere. So I get up in the morning and I literally lift the laptop onto my knee and start typing. I type while I'm eating my breakfast, while I'm blow drying my hair. When my kids were still at school, I would go in the school run and sit outside in the car, just typing away. So I don't set aside fixed periods of time. I just type all day long. A lot of my books, a lot of the recent ones, both of my lovely sons are basketball players. They're 18 and are almost 18 and 19 now. And at night, they used to have basketball training every night. And I would sit outside in the sports centre car park with a polystyrene cup of tea. And I would type, just write as much as I could while they were in there. And then collect them, go home, type through into the night, and I literally type until I fall asleep on the keyboard. It used to be the standing joke that if you looked on my forehead first thing in the morning, you would see the keyboard keys, because I would fall asleep on my laptop every night, and then get up the next morning, lift the laptop back onto the knee, and do it all over again. So that is pretty much how I live for the time period that I'm writing the book. And it's really, I do find it quite challenging, but that's what keeps everything in my head. It keeps the characters there, it keeps the storylines there, it keeps everything fresh in my mind, and it allows me to just sort of perpetuate that that stream of consciousness, and just get it through from start to finish. That was a good question, thank you. Okay. Where's your dream place to go on holiday and why? Wow. Right now, America, because one of my sons is there. He's at college over there. I think he's watching just now. Hey, Cal. And I really, really, really miss him. So my dream place to go on holiday is over there with my husband, with my other son, and just for the four of us to be together. So mushy as that sounds, he'll totally be rolling his eyes going, "Oh, Mum." But mushy as that sounds, that's my dream destination at the moment. How do you wind down from writing? Pals. I haven't really talked since we started this chat about my girlfriends. My husband once said that he didn't realise when he married me that I came with a group of women sitting at the kitchen table all the time, and it's very true. And I just think my girlfriends, they are some of the most important people in my life. We've been together for years and years, some of them since I was a teenager. And my girlfriends are the people who keep me going when things aren't great, and who celebrate all the smashing things. We get each other through everything. And I think that's the reason that so many of my books focus on female relationships and female friendships, because I genuinely think that there's nothing like it. I think if you've got your girlfriends by your side, you can pretty much conquer anything. So yes, I wind down from writing by having cups of tea, and getting the biscuit barrel out and sitting round the kitchen table chatting to my pals. Apart from that, spending time with my husband, the most patient man on earth, who is, I'm really grateful. He's quite happy. He absolutely understands that sometimes I'll lock myself away for weeks at a time. And my sons as well. I'm in that empty nest stage now. It's not really a very great stage. I'm hating it. I much preferred it when I had these little guys around me yelling at me to make cupcakes and go play football with them. So yes, it's all of those things. Friends, family, reading, all of those things help me wind down. So thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you've got any more questions for me, please feel free to hit up my Facebook page, my Twitter. My website is www.sharilow.com. There's a questions section on there. So if you've got anything at all you want to ask me, just leave me a comment somewhere. I will track it down and I will answer you. And same, my new book is called My 1 Month Marriage. It's out now. It's actually in the top 100 at the moment. So thank you so much to everyone who has read it, who has reviewed it. Thank you to all the bloggers who supported it. I really, really, really appreciate all the support and all the lovely things that you've said about it. So thank you. And to say, any questions? Put them out there somewhere. I will find them and answer them. Take care, and thank you for joining us. Bye bye now.